Hello and welcome to Live Well for the final in our series. And today we're going out with a bang. Being a parent is one of the most challenging things in the world to pull off, and you'll never really understand how difficult it can be until you try it yourself. But it is the best. This week, we're focusing on growing healthy children. Joining me is Felicity Harley and Chloe Maxwell.
Hi, Elka.
Ladies, now, we're not experts, but between us, we've got about 8 children, don't we?
Mm-hmm,
Yeah,
we do indeed.
And so we've changed a lot of nappies.
We have actually, thankfully I'm out of the nappy stage, but I have kept my baby change table for my husband because he played many years of professional sport. I'm probably going to need to change his nappies sometime in the near future, I'd say.
So I might hang on to mine as well because I've got a husband who played professional sport as well. But thankfully I'm not changing that many, Elka, but you're probably changing loads.
Yeah, we had a record of 19 the other day, but that's right,
Holy
newborn,
dooly.
infant and toddler, but I love it, wouldn't want it any other way. Today, I'll be investigating sugar. Is it affecting the behaviour of your children? Felicity, what are you up to?
Well, if there's been a new arrival in your family, I've got the ultimate survival kit for that first 12 months.
And I'm going to be looking at resilience in kids. Have we all become helicopter parents?
Do you think things have changed since we were children much? What do you think, Chloe?
Definitely. I know in the schoolyard as a girl I used to play stuck in the mud, brandings, we'd have breakdance battles, you know, and nowadays girls are just sitting around taking selfies and talking about each other.
Social media, good or bad?
Well, I used to have my list of pen pals that I had to write to every month. And of course there are a few boys thrown in. I love writing handwritten letters to boys.
And hence why she's the editor of Women's Health. Great grounding. Well, we thought it would be fun to see how this generation of children compares to those before them.
For our school lunch every day, we always had a sandwich.
To be honest, I normally have junk food.
Peanut butter sandwich.
Usually it's sushi and sometimes pizza.
In my free time, I definitely search the internet a lot.
Yeah, we used to play in the streets and with an old paling and a tennis ball. And
My favourite TV shows are Modern Family.
John Wayne was a bit of a pin-up for me.
Justin Bieber.
I rely on my phone a lot, like a lot.
we certainly didn't have phones in them days. Unheard of. We were lucky to have a radio.
I can't imagine life without my phone.
Children are very overprotected today. I think they should be allowed to make their own mistakes, fall over, scrape their knee, get up and continue on with life.
Ladies, are we breeding a generation of cotton wool kids?
I definitely think we are. Kids that are brought up by parents that mollycoddle them are less likely to be assertive, they're overly emotional and they're less likely to be independent. So I think they need to toughen up.
Hey, I love it. Hear, hear. Felicity, what do you think?
What worries me is we're not building realistic expectations for our children. We're telling them they're amazing at everything. But what I love about the word resilience is you can nurture it and you can change it. So as parents, we can make a difference.
Perfectly put. Well, to expand on this more, please welcome Dr. Adam Fraser, behavioural change expert.
Hey guys.
Hi. Hi. What sort of things are you seeing in these families?
Yeah, well, it's really easy to look at, when I was a kid, we raised kids right, but there's a lot of really strong evidence that shows the way we're raising kids today is not doing them any favours. It's just a trend in society of that we want our kids to be perfect. We want them to not struggle. We want to protect them. But this is important for their resilience. And they only develop resilience when they go through hardship.
Is it fear of failure? Are we afraid that they're going to fail because we know what it feels like to fail?
Look, whether it's the unrealistic expectations we have on parenting and mothers particularly today that they have to be perfect and do everything right. So we're making a rod for our own back, but we're growing a generation of kids who, when they come up against hard stuff, don't know what to do.
The other day my daughter ran in a running race and I asked her, so if you don't come first, what happens? And she goes, I don't get any dinner.
You have resilient children.
Okay.
My husband's an
Chloe,
athlete.
maybe you've
so-
gone a little extreme. And the research around this is really driven by a woman called Carol Dweck from Stanford University. And what she said is, what we're making is that struggle's bad and failure is bad and that you should win all the time. And we give kids a ribbon for coming 10th. Like, how insane's that? They came 10th. It should be first, second, third. Everyone else is a loser, and that's all right.
And there's a prize for every layer of pass the parcel.
Oh my gosh, we
nowadays.
had my daughter's 4th birthday party recently, and we went through this, and I thought pass the parcel was one toy and one kid gets it, but everyone gets it. Every layer they have to win.
So what's going to happen?
Well, this generation that have a view of if I fail, I'm a failure, rather than if I fail, I learn lessons and I struggle. And what kids are attached to today is the label. I'm smart, you're the pretty one, you're the artistic one. And we start to run our whole life by how do I redefine and reinforce that label.
Well, thanks so much for coming in. We're going to see you a little bit later on. Well, Live Well met up with a family trying to navigate their own way through this parenting challenge.
So we're basically your average family, but with 3 boys, 3 young boys, loud boys. I'm completely outnumbered.
Too many men, so she went and bought a female dog. I'd like to think I'm a good dad. I can be strict, but I was brought up in that sort of environment, so I just like to see manners, and that's what I try to teach my boys.
Kai, being my firstborn, tends to be the perfectionist. Ever since Kai was about 5 years old, he decided he wanted to be a doctor.
He definitely puts pressure on himself, always trying to achieve.
Sometimes I get a bit stressed about being a doctor when I grow up because I'm just worried about all the work that I'll have to go through.
Sam is our middle child and he suffers from the Marsha syndrome.
My mum and dad, they took me to the doctors, they took me to people to help me get over my anxiety.
I was very protective and I continue to be very protective of Sam because I see a lot of myself in him. Flynn is the youngest of the family and he is our little Spitfire.
Sometimes I get cross because my brothers be rude to me and make me miss out on every single thing.
He feels like people don't listen to him. It's very easy to be talked over or that, you know, what he says is not important enough.
Flynn's got a very good protective nature of his brothers, whereas he'll actually get upset if something's happening to one of the other brothers. For instance, Sam might pretend to run away. Flynn will cry and call out to Sam to come home, even though Sam's just outside.
We're hoping Adam will help us find that balance between being overprotective and arm us as parents to be able to deal with the fears of those, you know, things that could happen to them.
I'm definitely keen to see what he has to say.
A bit later on, we'll see how the Stackhouse family stacked up with our resilience expert, Adam Fraser.
Look, in terms of you guys, you're great parents, you've got great kids, and this is just about doing some little fine-tuning.
Plus, do you think sugar makes kids hyper? The Live Well Human Behaviour Lab will answer this sticky conundrum.
Today we're testing the effect of sugar on a child's behaviour.
And if there's been a new arrival in the family, perhaps you're in shock. Well, don't worry, we've got the essentials to get you through the first 12 months. Welcome back to Live Well. Your child will grow and learn more in their first 12 months than any other time of their life. Fantastic for them, but often stressful and, yes, scary for mum and dad. Now, Elka, you've pushed out 3 in 3 years. That's impressive. You're an expert, right?
Not an expert. You're learning every day, aren't you? Children are just surprise you every day. They're not robots. But there was this distinct moment, I remember, when I made it into the mothers group when our newborn was feeding, had spilt breast milk on me. Our youngest below had done her business. We were toilet training her. So I had the business down there, the milk up here. It was all happening. And I just remember laughing, thinking, I've made it to motherhood.
Well done, girl.
Thank you. So here are our tips on how to survive motherhood.
If you're going out, always take spare clothes for baby. And a change of clothes for yourself isn't a bad idea either. You can't do everything, so don't beat yourself up for ordering takeaway or letting the house get messy. Put the Vogue Living photo shoot off until next year. It's easy to forget you're part of a couple, so be nice to each other. Try to have a regular date night. If you can't get a sitter, take your baby and leave him under the table. Just don't forget him. Join a mother's group. It's a chance to get tips, sympathy, and spend 3 hours whining non-stop about your husband. Don't skip your own meals because you're too busy looking after your baby. And no, finishing off baby's meals doesn't count. Don't let people tell you what to do if you don't feel it's right, whether it's a book or a bossy mother-in-law. Trust your instincts. Don't feel like you should be working when your baby takes a nap. Take it as a blessing and get some shut-eye yourself. Although it might not seem like it, this time doesn't last for very long, so enjoy it as much as you can and don't wish it away. Before you know it, your beautiful baby will be a sulky teenager.
Oh, teenagers. I'm happy to stay with my little cherub, thanks very much. There's tons of literature on baby stages and health, but not every little miracle measures up in the same way the books say they should. To help take the stress out of the equation, please welcome Dr. Ginny Mansberg. Hi, Ginny.
Hey there.
Now, thankfully, I've just come out of the first year and it was hard work. But actually, I had a little mantra and it was, don't sweat the small stuff, let it go and hug your baby.
Love it. Great stuff.
But one of the things that really got me upset was Jimmy's crying all the time. What's the go?
Doesn't that just drive you crazy? Because you're used to being able to fix things. If someone has a problem, you go in and sort it out, right? And babies don't always follow the rule books. You can change their nappy, you can burp them, you can feed them, and sometimes they still keep crying because that's what they do for a living.
Now, a good point to mention before, as Felicity was saying, was there are all these books out there which actually sometimes can cause problems because they're setting up expectations. Your baby should roughly cry about 2 hours a day in total, kind of, because that's their only way of expelling energy, correct?
Well, they don't have a whole range of conversations that they can discuss with you. They pretty much, if they're awake, they're either going to look around for a bit or they're going to cry for a bit, and it's not necessarily a problem. That's a really hard thing to come to terms with, especially with your first baby, because you think that if you're a good mum, your baby will never cry, but they do, as you say, at some point. And if it's not a really hysterical cry, don't worry about it too much and probably let it go a bit.
So when should we worry about the crying?
I reckon mums know. I reckon mums have a really good sixth sense about when something is not right. And if you think something's not right, I'm going to listen to that, because mums spend 24/7 with their babies. They listen to every cry. And if it's worrying you, it's worrying me.
Ginny, tell us the difference between reflux and colic.
Okay, reflux is where the acid goes from the stomach back up the food pipe, causes the chemical burn, very painful for the baby. Colic is just one of those mysterious conditions that we've never actually been able to find any objective medical evidence that there is such a thing as colic. In theory, they say it's spasm of the bowel, but we don't really know. It's pretty much a crying baby. When babies cry, they pull their little knees up into their little tummies, and that's just how they go. We've got lots and lots of supposed treatments out there with no evidence to support them whatsoever. The only thing is, we do think that some babies are actually pretty allergic. So if your baby is one of those babies who cries all the time and somebody said, oh, your baby's got colic, chat to your GP about it.
Now, the other thing that used to worry me, well, actually it still does because Jimmy still gets it, is nappy rash. And actually he's had it quite badly at times, like all around his bottom. He would hate me talking about this on live TV. He's gonna...
Especially for his 21st.
I know. What's the go?
That's just inflammation of the skin. It can happen to any of us anywhere, except for a nappy is a perfect storm because it's warm, it's often wet, there's often nasty chemicals in the urine, so it will burn and, you know, it happens. But of course, if it's bleeding, that's a real problem, and it does happen quite a lot. I really need you to see the doctor.
Tell us about the big one that everyone goes through, teething.
Yes, so the average baby, 90% of babies actually get their first tooth between 6 and 12 months. That's an interesting one because a lot of parents are convinced that their babies are teething at around 3 to 4 months because that's when they start drooling and shoving everything in their mouths. That's just what babies do. That's how they kind of get to know stuff. We look, we listen, they shove it in their mouth. And it doesn't necessarily mean teeth are coming. The other big fallacy I see is that people think that, you know, a baby's got a 39-degree fever, is off their food, is coughing, and that's teething. It's definitely not teething.
Well, I'd like to talk about that because Jimmy does get high temperatures. So I've had 2 hospital visits of 40-degree temperatures, and then a couple of days later, these teeth start sprouting through. So how, you know, I'm led to believe that high temperatures do cause teething.
They don't. So teething can cause a very low-grade fever, but what does happen around the time that they're teething is that they really are shoving everything in their mouth, and there's bugs on the stuff that they're shoving in their mouths. And so around the time that they're teething, they're also introducing a whole host of brand new and exciting viruses into their body. And it just, they happen to coincide at the same time. So Viruses and bacterial infections will definitely cause those high fevers, and yes, they're more likely to happen when your baby's teething, but it's not the teething that causes the fever.
Thanks, Dr. Ginny. Here's our own Live Well newborn tips to help guide you through the first 12 months.
To clean away cradle cap, massage light olive oil into the scalp, leaving it to soften enough for a brush to lift it off. Natural oil barriers can help prevent nappy rash. Apply olive oil, coconut, almond or sesame oil whenever changing nappies. Feed your baby foods with plenty of calcium, vitamins and minerals to help them develop healthy teeth. Relieve teething pain fast with Bonjela teething gel. It's sugar-free, colour-free and suitable for babies from 4 months old. Help ease reflux with Gaviscon Infant, which places a barrier in the stomach to physically prevent the contents of their stomach from flowing back into the esophagus. If in doubt, always consult your healthcare professional.
Head to livewellonline.com.au to see our checklist for teething babies. Coming up next, would you like your children to be more resilient? Stay tuned because we can help you out.
Do you reckon you guys are overprotective?
Probably. We're getting better. I used to send them over to the park across the road with walkie-talkies and I'd check in every 5 minutes. So.
And later, sugar is often accused of causing hyperactivity and meltdowns. But is that really the case? After the break, we'll find out.
Welcome back. Well, many factors play a part in raising happy, healthy and resilient children. I'm here with Dr. Adam Fraser, behaviour change expert. Welcome.
Hello.
Now, earlier on we met the Stackhouse family and you went out and saw them. Can you remind us what their challenges were?
Yeah, what the challenge was is they just wanted to know how do we raise resilient kids in today's world. So that's what we talked to them about.
Well, let's take a look, shall we?
So Sonia and Carl, thanks very much for welcoming me into your house today, and we're going to talk about kids and resilience and those sorts of things. So do you reckon you guys are overprotective?
Probably. We're getting better. I used to send them over to the park across the road with walkie-talkies and I'd check in every 5 minutes. So.
You know, in terms of Sammy, your middle child, he's had some anxiety stuff in the past. Whenever we go through something, we have to explain it in our head. We've got to rationalise it and then we move on to something else. And a lot of psychology's looked at how important is our explanation style. Now, what I want you to start to watch out for is how your kids explain the world and pull them up on it. Mm-hmm. And if they come home from school and go, I got picked last for basketball, the kids don't like me and I'm never going to be on the team. If we're going to put our detective hat on, what else could be going on? Mm. And that gives them that resilience that no matter what happens, they look at it in a healthier way. Have you ever seen a talent show? You know, someone gets up and sings and they suck and the judges go, that's terrible, and the shock on their face and devastation. Have you ever seen that?
Yes.
And the reason for that is that they do suck, but no one's ever told them that they do. And one of the things with kids today is they have to be the most talented, the best at everything. We give them these labels, and what we celebrate is these labels of you are so smart, you're so artistic, you're so this, you're so that. But the problem with that is kids get addicted to the label. They want the affirmation. They want to be told that they're okay. When they come up against something, an exam, and they stuff it up, what do you think happens to that kid?
Well, they're mentally thinking that they've failed.
Yeah.
Disappointed.
They're devastated.
Yeah.
What we want to start to do is look at celebrating the effort put into something, not just the label.
The outcome.
And this is really important for Kai, who is clearly a switched-on kid and has an aspiration to be a doctor. I want you to start to watch your language around good boy, you're so smart, you're so this, you're so that. Mm-hmm. And start to talk about their enjoyment and the process and how they got better. The third thing we're going to talk about with our kids with resilience is that, you know, the driver of behaviour is really emotion. Like, have you ever bought something you didn't really need? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're driven by emotion. So one of the most important things we can do with our kids, particularly if we want them to be resilient, is understand and regulate their emotions. Now, a thing that a lot of schools are starting to bring in is these resilience programs. And there's one in the US called the Ruler program. And what Ruler stands for is the ability to recognise, understand, label, express and regulate your emotions. And what the purpose of the program is to get kids to understand what's driving their behaviour. So they come up with the emotion. It might be, I feel sad, I feel happy, I feel frustrated, angry, whatever. And what they talk about is what has driven them to feel that way, why do they feel that way, and how they can choose a better response.
So I think this would be actually really great for Flynn, because I know when we try to speak to him and ask him how he's feeling, we get the, I don't know, he can't put it into words. So.
Yeah, that'd be perfect for him, I'd suggest that.
Look, in terms of you guys, you're great parents, you've got great kids, and this is just about doing some little fine-tuning. Now, the 3 things we talked about. Number 1 was around how they explain the world to them and getting them to be the detective, to come up with different stories, talk about how those stories make them feel and which one do they want to choose. The second one was about we're looking at celebrating effort rather than the outcome. So trying to avoid that label of you're so wonderful, you're so great, and talking about the process that got them there, how did they enjoy it? And for Kai, moving into medicine, that's going to be a really important one.
Yeah.
And the third one was about getting them to understand and express and label their emotions. And he said for Flynn that that's a really important one, and he thinks something that he could really benefit from. You got your plan? I'm going to check in with you in a couple of weeks to see how you're travelling, but I'm sure you guys are going to be fine. So it's been a real pleasure to talk to you, and I look forward to seeing what great things you've done.
Thank you.
Right, thank you very much.
Joining us now is the Stackhouse family. Welcome, Carl, Sonia, Flynn, Kai and Sam. I'll ask you first, Carl, how did you go with the overprotective one?
In my opinion, it was easy. Just make sure they're wearing their helmets and so forth. But no, I mean, in general, you've just got to make sure that they understand what the outcome is of what their actions are.
So were there some specific instances that you had to actually tell yourself to let go in?
I think the biggest ones were, problems or issues around, dealing with friendships at school. Normally I would sort of want to be a part of it, want to get involved, give advice, but I had to more ask, how can you fix it or what can you do? And take more of a back seat, I guess. So.
Yeah, which is a great thing, and it builds that capability in the children to deal with their own problems rather than us rescuing them all the time.
And what about for you, Carl? How did you sort of take on board that helping kids explain their world?
Well, we made a bit more time in the evening to sit down and listen to them and listen to their day individually, but at a family time. So it was good to actually hear them explain not just what happened today, but how it made them feel and what they got up to and who they hung out with during the day and so forth.
Well, what about the understanding and regulating of emotions? How did that affect you, Sonia?
Look, I think it was not getting caught up in the moment so much, allowing them to, I guess, lose their temper or have a bit of a scream, but it's not okay to peg shoes at each other's heads and things like that.
Really?
So.
Oh. So I wanted to ask you, Kai, with the celebrating effort over results, how did you apply that?
Well, Mum and Dad, instead of thinking of the end result and how well I did in the assignment, they start to celebrate more of how I got to finish the assignment, say organising it, planning it, and just sitting down and doing my homework.
And did you see a marked difference in him by taking that approach, Sonia?
Yeah, there was less pressure on the end result. Normally we'd be focused on getting the job done, getting the assignment finished. This time it was all about, I guess, celebrating each step of the process, and getting the first part done and the second part done and celebrating along the way rather than, finishing it and getting the result.
It's showing them how they're progressing, which shows them that effort equals result rather than just, well, what did you achieve, what was the mark?
That's right, exactly.
Any last words of advice for the Stackhouse family?
No, it's just amazing. You've done really well, and the fact that you found it easy, like it wasn't hard, and that you've seen the benefits, I have no fear that you won't continue doing this. I think you've done really well and should be really proud of yourselves.
Excellent. Thank you, Sonia, Carl, Sam, Flynn and Kai, and Dr. Adam Fraser. Thank you, of course, to you once again. Coming up, can bad behaviour in kids be blamed on sugar? Plus, the boys are in the kitchen with a healthy kids coconut fudge recipe. You might want to stick around for that one.
It's the perfect afternoon treat for kids or even for a birthday celebration.
Hi and welcome back to Live Well. Well, there's plenty of research backing the idea that children need to cut down on their sugar consumption. But does any amount of sugar affect their behaviour?
We decided to run our own experiment in the Live Well Behaviour Lab to see if sugar really does make kids hyper.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Live Well Sugar Lab. As you can see, we're very scientific here. I have a lab coat on, so I must know what I'm doing. Today we're testing the effect of sugar on a child's behaviour. I have two identical test subjects for our experiment, and when I say identical, I do mean identical. They're identical twins, so that means that DNA or genetics won't play a role in the outcome today. Our first subject will be eating this, a plate of jelly snakes. And our second subject will be eating this, a plate of dry sayos. These snakes are almost entirely made of sugar. They're about 96% sugar, so she'll be getting a great sugar rush when she eats those. Now over here, the dry crackers contain almost no sugar whatsoever, less than 1%, so she won't be getting much sugar buzz from that at all. We'll come back later in the show to find out what effect sugar or no sugar has on a child's behaviour.
I'm not so sure about that experiment, but let's cross back later for an update. In the meantime, please welcome nutritionist Kristen Beck to discuss what role sugar plays in kids' behaviour. Now, does sugar make kids hyper?
Look, it's always been the myth, hasn't it? It's always been, mother thinks kids had sugar, we're going in for a long afternoon. But realistically, the science now has well and truly busted in the short term that sugar will actually cause hyperactive behaviour.
That's interesting, wasn't what I expected to hear. Why is that?
Look, there's several randomised clinical trials, which basically means that the parents have not been told whether or not the children have actually had sugar or a non-sugar substitute, but they've told the parents that they've had sugar. If they believe the child has had sugar, they will actually rate their child's behaviour as worse.
That's interesting. So it's a little bit of a placebo effect. It's just that old school that we hear, if you give your children sugar, they're going to be hyper. But in fact, as you just said, the results are showing that's not the case.
Exactly. And basically, what they call is research bias, or parental bias, where parents, because they believe, and personally, as a mother myself, you watch your kids eating a whole lot of sugar and you go, oh my gosh, what are we in for? But the research says it's not the sugar actually causing the meltdowns. Maybe they're having a meltdown because they don't want to leave the party.
So we have to change our mindset, right?
Yeah.
But so babies are born with a sweet tooth.
Yes.
We're born with a sweet tooth because we have to crave the breast milk.
Yes.
So what role does sugar play? Why do we need sugar?
Okay, so babies are actually born with sweet, salty and fatty taste preferences. So the innate taste preference for us, all humans, sweet, salty, fatty. Sweet is number one. We're always going to be craving sweet stuff. And the sweet stuff is so important because it's what gives us energy. When we're out, wherever, sugar, whether it be coming from fruits, vegetables, wherever it's coming from, even the healthier sources are still our energy source.
Let's talk about that for a minute. In terms of, you said from fruit, so fructose.
Yes.
Children that want to eat, my children love having a punnet of strawberries or a punnet of blueberries.
Fantastic.
Okay, that has a lot of sugar in it.
Yes, it does.
What are your thoughts on that?
As a mother, I would absolutely recommend that as one of the best snacks you could possibly have. At the end of the day, kids are going to be craving sugar, and and adults, we crave sugar. If they can be filling up on fruit, which also comes with vitamins, minerals, fibre, fluids, it's come from the ground. Fantastic. You can't get a better afternoon snack than some a punnet of strawberries or some blueberries.
Great.
So why are all these people out there screaming, quit sugar, don't eat sugar? Where's the problem?
Look, like with everything in nutrition, we tend to always go, one way, way too far that way or way too far that way. Sugar, when it is refined, when it's added to things, is bad, okay? We are taking in too much, okay? A little bit we can absolutely deal with. Our bodies are actually pretty well set up to deal with a whole lot of stuff, okay? But when it comes to just filling up your diet with highly processed foods that have actually lost your vitamins, lost your minerals, lost your fibre via processing and then a whole lot of added sugar whacked back into it, that's where you're actually going to start displacing the healthy stuff that we need to get our nutrients in.
So what are some of the problems that arise from a kid having too much sugar?
Look, we have really, really strong research to say that dental cavities, we've always known, you know, dental cavities are linked to sugar, and so you need to be careful of that. Also, there is research, very, very strong research to say that if kids have too much sugar in the form of drinks, in particular soft drinks, cordials, fruit juices, too much of those, can actually cause obesity, and there is an absolute link between those two because the drinks do not have that filling effect that, you know, eating food will.
I think what I struggle with when I go shopping is there's obviously hidden sugars in things like tomato sauce, pasta sauce.
Yes.
I just don't know where to look.
Yeah.
And suddenly I'm eating a meal that's full of sugar.
Yes.
Got any tips for that?
Look, anything where there's any kind of sugary ingredient, and you can normally pick it up, it'll have sugar, but often it'll end up in, it might be another technical term that ends up in the letters OSE on the end. O's, fructose, glucose, maltose, galactose, you know, all those, anything finishing in O's will mean sugar, okay? And if they're in the top 3 ingredients on the list...
Say goodbye to it.
Bye-bye, yeah.
Okay, easy tip. Yeah. Thanks so much for coming in, Kristen.
Thanks for having me.
I guess we better check into that lab to see what's going on with that experiment.
Welcome back to the Live Well Science Lab. It's been 30 minutes since we started the test, and as you can see, things are heating up. The trouble is, I honestly can't remember which of the twins ate the sugar and which didn't. Come on, girls, please. Come on, I'm a scientist. Settle down. Come on, enough. All right, come your way then. All right.
Coming up, foodies Scott and Luke whip up a tempting schoolyard treat, sugar-free, I hope.
And that is exactly why we love this coconut choc fudge.
And have you ever wondered what dangers might lurk in your house? Well, Rowena, our blogger, will be here to reveal what nasties could be hiding.
Hi, welcome back to Live Well. With the nation's growing waistlines and the associated health problems, it is so important that we nourish our kids with both tasty and healthy food.
And that is exactly why we love this coconut choc fudge. It's the perfect afternoon treat for kids or even for a birthday celebration, and it is easy as.
It is.
The first thing we've done so far is just line a baking tray or a tin with the baking paper there, which is going to make this whole process super easy.
Mate, I'm going to get onto the bottom layer of the fudge. We're going to start with some coconut oil. We've got a cup of coconut oil here.
Yum.
Luke and I use coconut oil to cook with, but we also use it in like baking for treats too.
That's exactly right, and sometimes Scott just rubs it into his body. It's a good moisturiser as well. So you've put that in?
Yeah, it does give it a coconut taste, obviously, but it's also a great fat too.
Excellent.
The second thing that goes in is some almond butter. This is so easy to make at home, guys. Just throw in a few handfuls of almonds straight into the food processor, whiz it up. The first thing you'll get is almond meal. If you keep processing, you'll get almond butter.
Yum, sounds so easy.
It is.
So the next 2 ingredients to go in are shredded coconut and rice malt syrup. Now, rice malt syrup is a fantastic fructose-free sweetener, making it perfect for kids' desserts because it's not going to leave them all hyperactive. Now, you get a bit hyperactive if you accidentally have sugar, don't you?
Yeah, it's a dangerous mix.
That's exactly right, but what isn't a dangerous mix is vanilla bean. Absolutely delicious, which means pop the lid on and we're ready to blitz it for the first time.
Here we go. So this will only take a minute or 2. All right, that's done. Let's get her out.
All right, now you hold that over there and I'm going to scoop it in. Now you only want about half of this mixture because this is a double-layered dessert. So we need to save some for our chocolate layer. So that's about enough for the base.
That's pretty good, so smooth that out.
So that's looking absolutely perfect. Beautiful. I'm going to chuck that in the freezer for about 10 minutes and we can get onto our chocolate layer.
Okay, the chocolate layer. We're going to throw in 1/3 of a cup of cacao. We just need to process that again. This will only take a short amount of time.
Cacao is a great source of natural energy, which is why we love using it in desserts like this. So now that that's ready, I'm going to grab the first layer out of the freezer.
That looks divine. How's it looking?
Absolutely perfect. That's hardened up very quickly, which is great. Now, if you have a little look at that, perfectly set.
Solid as a rock.
All right, now you want to pour that in, and you want to create a perfect even layer with this second chocolate. It is absolutely beautiful. So the bottom layer is the nuts. On top, you've got a layer of crisp chocolate. You can't get any better than that. Now, spread that all out. And if you don't have one of these little spatula-y things, another trick you can do.
Oh yeah, the old tap.
The old pour it down one side, pour it down the other, and now it's time to decorate it. So let's give this a crack. Scott, you've got the shredded coconut.
Yep, I'm just gonna tip that over, nice and even.
And I've got cacao nibs here, which is a raw form of chocolate, which is a fantastic boost of magnesium, which we love.
The kids are gonna love that.
That's exactly right. Now, guys, all you need to do is chuck that in the freezer for another 10 minutes and you're ready to go. Coconut choc fudge. For the recipe, check out livewell.com.au.
Chocolate. Thanks, guys. After the break, our blogger Rowena reveals the things in your house that could be a health hazard.
Welcome back, everybody. Joining us now is our resident blogger, Rowena Newman. Rowena, how are you?
Very well. How are you, ladies?
Great. Good. What are you blogging about this week?
I am talking about something that's a little bit scary, but it's unexpected dangers for your family in your home. Now, I know that with children, you know, I often think that my most important job is just keeping my children alive, right? So, and there's, you know, when you do some research, you find some quite scary things in your home that can be really, really dangerous. So, for example, I read a statistic that every 3 weeks a child in the US is killed by a TV falling on them.
Wow.
It's terrifying. So, you know, as TVs get bigger and bigger, you know, obviously they're, you know, a little bit more unstable and they can topple over and crush a child. So I don't know if you've had any experience with it.
Actually, I was in Noosa a couple of weeks ago and was staying in this apartment and had this massive TV on a small stand. And Jimmy was just, he was going near it, he was trying to hold it, and that was not a relaxing holiday.
Because they're so big, aren't they?
Fall on him.
Exactly.
Blind cords. We just got all ours cut because our children thought it would be fun to swing on them.
Yeah.
And unfortunately in Australia, in the last few months, there's been a few deaths of children putting the cords around them. So for anyone at home, make the blind cords a bit shorter.
Absolutely. And there's, you know, so many other hidden things as well that you never would really think of. So, for example, mothballs. So in winter, you know, you're getting all of your winter woolies out of storage, and mothballs are kind of used to keep the moths away.
But they look like lollies, don't they?
Well, they look like lollies, but even, you know, ignoring that kind of risk, they give off a gas called naphthalene, which if you inhale too much of it, it can give you headaches and cause respiratory issues and even kind of lung conditions and things. So there's a natural alternative to mothballs, which is white peppercorns. If you want to use those, then you don't face any of the risks.
But that's great. And what about mould? I'm always worried. I've got mould actually on the ceiling in our bathroom.
Yeah, mould is really, really dangerous. Actually, again, it can cause headaches, it can cause respiratory issues, particularly for people with asthma. And what you should always do is try and keep good airflow through the room to minimise the amount of mould growth. So using, you know, a fan or a dehumidifier to take the moisture out of the air, then that'll really try and keep the mould at bay. But if the mould's already there, then, you know, try and clean it off, you know, try and get rid of it. Because if you're, again, breathing in all those mould spores, then if you've got something like asthma, it can cause really, really bad, you know, effects on you.
We just left our last house because of that. There was mould growing everywhere and all of us kept getting, you know, bronchitis or respiratory problems. And someone said to me, if it's growing on your wall, imagine what it's doing to your lungs. And since we've moved house, nothing's been wrong.
Clean that
White vinegar or exit mould, I find works brilliantly for mould. Just spray it on, you don't really have to do anything and it's gone.
Yeah.
I use it to clean the shower as well, and all I do is just spray the shower. I don't have to scrub anything. Shut the door and hope for the best.
Fantastic. Yeah, so, you know, mould again, just, you know, watch out for it. Another thing that I was reading about was gas heating. So in Australia, there's a big trend towards people heating their homes in winter using gas heaters because I think it's cheaper than electricity at this stage. But what people do incorrectly is they close the windows, and you're meant to have a good, you know, fresh air supply while you're heating with gas. What terrible, terrible things can happen if the gas builds up in your house. You can just fall asleep
and not wake up.
I've heard terrible stories. We actually had a boating incident at one of our charities for ASD kids, and They shut the blinds on the boat and carbon monoxide was coming into the boat and people were getting poisoned and just dropping like flies, which was pretty full on because you can't smell it. And we actually had Tour de France cyclist Robbie McEwen on the boat, and because he's lived in Belgium, he knew, because apparently whole families can go to bed and not wake up because of the issues of gas heating over there.
Was everyone okay?
He was actually the best because he'd done high altitude training, which was amazing. But someone fell into the water and my husband had to save him, and yeah, it was really scary. So gas can be pretty full on if you don't actually take care.
Absolutely. So they say never use a gas heater near where children or anyone's sleeping. Always have a window open and that good, air supply into the house.
Thanks so much, Rowena. There really are some pretty unusual and surprising hazards out there to hear about. With 1/3 of all injuries occurring in the home, we've come up with our own Live Well tips to make your home a safe environment.
Most falls happen in the home, so repair damaged walks and steps, remove tripping hazards, and use non-skid mats to keep throw rugs from slipping. Make a creative space for kids to play and explore, and they'll be less likely to enter areas you might not want them to get into. Install a smoke detector and lower your hot water thermostat to 50 degrees. Lock windows or shield them with firmly attached screens and move any chairs and pot plants away from them. Prepare a first aid kit, which contains the essentials. The kit can contain antiseptics like Dettol antiseptic cream for treating cuts, scratches and abrasions, and Dettol antiseptic disinfectant liquid to cleanse and help protect against infection from cut, scratches and insect bites.
Make sure to keep visiting our website livewellonline.com.au, where you'll continue to find loads of fresh ideas, programs and really smart tips for keeping happy, healthy and active. Well, I'm sad to say that's it for Live Well for this season. It's been fantastic to focus on health and wellbeing these last 10 weeks. I hope you've enjoyed it. I know we certainly have, haven't we, ladies?
I've hated every minute of it.
Oh.
No, just kidding. I'm going to miss you. I've got to go back to my real life now.
Husband, children. Yeah, I've loved it. It's been really nice getting to know you two and just talking about health and wellbeing.
Yeah, we've learned a lot actually.
We have.
So we wish you all the best for you and yours. Thanks for tuning in and we hope to see you again soon.
Bye.